The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm so excited to be here today because we've got a really exciting show for you. We're going to be with you live for the next 2 hours talking about topics having to do with autism and how you and I can be more efficient, more effective working with a child on the autism spectrum, helping them to reach their fullest potential. You know, all week long we have been featuring a very important organization that's very near and dear to me. Of course, I'm talking about TACA, Talk About Curing Autism. And today, in just a little while after we do the jargon of the day, we are going to be joined by the founder of TACA, Lisa Ackerman. She's already here in the studio, and you can feel the excitement because she's here. She's a very energetic, powerful woman who has a lot to say that we can all learn from. So we're thrilled to have her with us today. And as always, the show is meant to be a conversation where you guys get to give us your input and tell us your thoughts and feelings and your suggestions for topics and ask questions. Today is a great day to ask questions. I'm going to ask Emily to cycle through some of the different ways that you can participate in the conversation today. But I want to remind you that if you're watching us live, and you can watch us live on autism-live.com. When we are live, there is a feature. It says Shannon is answering right now. A little bit of a misnomer because usually Shannon is asking right now somebody else. But that's a box there that is for you. It is a live feature. The cursor is active when we're live, and we are live right now. You can type in whatever you'd like. Tell us where you're watching from. You can tell us how TACA has impacted your life. You can ask a question. Whatever you put there, if you hit enter, it shows up here magically on my screen. You don't have to log in. You don't have to give credit card information. You're not even going to tell us your name or your address. It's completely anonymous, but you can be a part of the conversation. And of course, if you're watching us in a previously recorded format, all of these different things that you're seeing on the screen are ways that you can still communicate. You know, we have experts all the time who come in and sit in the chair next to me, and on your behalf, I get to pick their brains and find out what they know. That's a very exciting thing. And I know some of you have written in the past and said, well, I saw this interview after the date. It's okay. We keep tabs on where these people go. We keep their addresses and phone numbers and cell phone numbers, and we can call them after they leave. So if you're watching us previously recorded, don't feel left out of the conversation. The conversation goes on. But do take advantage of this opportunity to be asking these questions. Again, it's all free. We love that. Okay. As you know, we like to start every morning with something that we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is where we take on one word, one phrase, one anagram, and try to demystify it, figure out just what in the hey nani nani those experts are talking about when they're referring to our children. The beginning of this journey through autism is often so overwhelming. I know that firsthand. And when my son was diagnosed with autism, I consider myself a fairly intelligent person who's very curious, and I want to know more information, but there were all these terms that maybe I had heard them used, but not in the context of autism, and certainly not in the context of my child. And I found it frustrating and overwhelming. And I fought against it. I'll be honest with you. I would say to people, don't use those terms. Tell me what it is. Tell me in plain English. Make me understand. And what I learned over time is that that is a time suck, because then they have to stop and explain it to me, and I just wasted valuable time. And that it's much better if you can make friends with the jargon a little bit at a time, really gain just a tiny little understanding and string it together like a bunch of beads, so that when you go to these meetings, eventually you can keep pace and understand the jargon. And I have to admit, I like the jargon now because it's so specific and it tells me exactly what I need to know about what's going on with my child. I know I've gone to the dark side, but there it is. Okay, so all this week we've been talking about play and how important play skills are to our children. It's an opportunity for our kids to work on all the other things, the social goals that they have, the language goals that they have, even their motor skills, while doing it within the safety of play. It's very forgiving, a great place for our kids to work. So we've been taking play jargon. I know, there's even play jargon. And trying to demystify that. Okay, so today's term is imaginary play. And earlier this week we talked about functional pretend play and we talked about symbolic play. So let's just review a little bit. Remember, functional pretend play, that aisle in the toy store where you go through and they've got the pretend kitchens, right? It's all miniaturized plastic versions of real life things, the plastic vacuum cleaner, right? Of all things that a child would want to play with, but they do. That's the functional pretend play aisle. Then maybe you go one aisle over and in some toy stores they have the Imaginarium aisle where it's toys that are more the symbolic play. It's the blocks and things where we're going to take the block, which is just a block of wood, and we're going to endow it with properties to turn it into something else. So it may become a window in a house that we're building, or the block might become part of a truck, the cab of a truck. That's symbolic. We're endowing that block with different features and pretending that it is now the thing that is making it a functional pretend toy. Well, now we go to the next leap, which is imaginary play. If in the realm of things, if we said, okay, we have a toy broom, that's the functional pretend play broom. Now we have a stick, and that becomes the symbolic toy. We're pretending the stick is a broom. Well, now we get to imaginary play, and we mime the broom, and we're making a broom out of nothing. This is when it's sort of like stepping off a cliff with play. It's so exciting when we can get our children to get to imaginary play. A lot of times our kids don't engage in this kind of play, and it can seem like this faraway goal that you're never going to get to. But if we work through the progression and start with functional pretend, and then we move to symbolic play and we model it first and make it really reinforcing for our kids, and then take the leap off the cliff into imaginary play. Don't be frustrated if at first it doesn't happen, but you will see that over time, if you make it reinforcing for your child, it will happen, and it's really exciting because you want to talk about working on flexibility issues. We can work on play endlessly, but then you put a child with other children, and have you watched lately how neurotypical children play? It was fascinating to me the first time that I really looked at it through that lens, and we had helped my child to learn all these different skills, and we put him with a group of girls inside of a toy house, and the one bossy girl was saying, all right, now we're going to play this, and I'm the mom and you're the dog. And my son he was like, okay, and, so he became the dog. 3 seconds later, the girl was like, no, now we're going to pretend that the house is an airplane. Right? The reality just kept changing with all this imaginary play. And it was hard for him to keep up, but if we work on these things with our kids, they can keep up. And not only that, it opens up a whole world to them where they can see things in a different way. It really is one of the great steps getting towards perspective taking, because if they can shift a reality in play, it helps them to have the facility to shift their mind thinking, okay, this is how it is for me. How is it for you? Perspective taking, really a far executive function skill down the road, but the kernel of it can start here. Very exciting. The first time that my son ever engaged in full imaginary play, we had gotten him a toy fishing rod. We weren't even going for it with a fishing rod, but we'd gotten a fishing rod so that he could, the magnetic thing, right, to do the fish. Loved it, right? And then he loved it so much that there was a day when he took it to symbolic play, and I had something in my shopping cart that he started taking and using it as a fishing rod, and then I went to one of those big stores, warehouse stores, and he asked to sit on the big flatbed shopping cart, and I was trying to shop, and I looked over, and he was pretending that it was a boat and that he didn't have anything in his hands, but he was fishing off the side of the shopping cart. I sat down on the shopping cart, cried, and called his supervisor before I called his dad. And then I called his dad and said, "You won't believe what our child is doing." If we work in a progression, we can get to those moments of imagination and creativity. Oh, the things that can happen. So play, so important. All right. Moving on, we always have a question of the day for you. We've been talking about toys all week long. Oh, and I didn't even go through the definitions. I'm so a Twitter today because I'm excited about Lisa Ackerman here. Here were your definitions. Using imagination to create objects, locations, scenarios, and situations where they are not already exist for the purpose of play. And our working definition for you is making it up. When our kids make it up. It's a lovely thing. All right, now we're going to have the question of the day. Here we go. I just want to make Emily's life difficult today. What toy or toys does your child have difficulty playing with? What are the toys that just, you just can't make it happen? I know we were excited about Legos, but there have been other families that I've met along the way that say, my kid it's not reinforcing for them. They don't get it. They're not interested in it. They're, it's just not happening. We all have some sort of toy like that our child just is completely uninterested in. But I want to know from you, what is it that your child has difficulty playing with, and not just lack of interest, but difficulty that make it really, really rough. For us in the beginning, really loud sensory toys. My son loved music, but they were all a little bit too loud. Love to hear from you, and we'll check in on Facebook later on to see what kinds of things you guys said. We always have a topic of the day and of the week, and our topic all this week, of course, has been play skills. That has been in conjunction with featuring the wonderful organization TACA, Talk About Curing Autism. So today, some of the different things that we're going to do in just a minute, we're going to bring in the founder of TACA, Lisa Ackerman. She'll be with us. We hope that we may have time to get to a healthy eating tip today, but we will have time to get to BCBA Angela Persicke is going to be with us in the second hour today, specifically talking about play skills and research having to do with play skills, but also I've asked her today to talk about, somebody had written in a question of, I know a lot of you have insurance that is now kicking in for ABA. What a fabulous, wonderful thing. We want to see more and more of that happening, right? But a lot of you are writing in and saying, okay, we got all approved, got funding, and our BCBA has come back and said 20 hours or 25 hours or 15 hours for a very small child who is not yet in school, and questions about, is that enough? Because you've heard us talk about that 30 to 40 hours. So we're going to be citing some specific, research that shows that 30 to 40 hours and what kinds of things to do if you're being told that you qualified for less. Questions you can ask, ways that you can put forth your case to see if you can't get yourself in that 30 to 40 hour window. That'll be in the second hour with BCBA Angela Persicke. Okay. It's a very exciting day. I'm so thrilled. And we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to be joined by Lisa Ackerman, the founder of TACA. Stick with us. Currently in the United States, 1 in 88 children is affected by autism. 1 in 88 means something different when your child is the one. Recovery is possible. Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, host of Autism Live, an online show about autism broadcast by CARD, the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I'm also the mother of a child with autism, my beautiful son, Jem. You know our old joke, guess what?
Chicken butt.
Chicken butt. So we're going to take the chickens. But things weren't always so easy. I remember when Jem was first diagnosed with autism. I used to lay awake at night in bed and pray for someone or something that could help us to get our child back. My prayers were answered by Dr. Doreen Grandpichet and the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. CARD treats autism and other related disorders using the principles of ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis, which is the only scientifically proven effective treatment for autism. It is also recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics and the U.S. Surgeon General. About a year after we started treatment with CARD, we were able to see tremendous improvement, and we got our child back.
What grade are you in?
Second.
You are a smart cookie, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Do you like school?
Yeah.
Do you have any good friends?
Yeah, Oscar.
Oscar is your best friend?
Yeah.
And my child is just one of thousands to benefit from CARD ABA therapy. Across the nation and around the world, children are making amazing progress and being given the keys to unlock their full potential.
We are extremely grateful for the amazing job CARD has done in helping our daughter. Our daughter today, just in 4 months, I think is a totally different child than when she started with CARD. I kind of see it as, it seems like her brain in a way was asleep, and now that we've gotten so many services, we've seen her wake up.
Did you have some guesses?
Recovery is possible if you take the right steps, if you're willing to put in all the hard work. And 7.5 years, yeah, it's a lot of work. It's worth every little bit, and CARD's been there with us every step of the way.
I have 2 children with autism. I can't imagine a day without CARD or the therapists. They've been so instrumental in helping us with our kids and shaping their lives and helping us help them.
Thank you, Christina Big Alex.
Thank you, Jackie and Mariana.
We've tried other things before ABA, but the most beneficial thing has been ABA services, and I'd be the first person to tell any newly diagnosed family that you have to contact an ABA provider, and if you're lucky enough to have CARD, you're very blessed.
Recovery from autism is absolutely a possibility. We've been recovering children for over 20 years. It's just a matter of identifying the child's medical needs, understanding the child's sensory issues, and then teaching the child all of the skills they need in order to function normally.
We know there's hope for autism. Autism is treatable, and recovery from autism is possible.
Welcome back. We are here with the wonderful and fabulous and energetic and inspirational Lisa Ackerman, founder of Talk About Curing Autism. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. But at morning, I've had 3 cups of coffee, so
that's
good luck
all
with
good.
that.
So you're even more energetic than normal. All right, I'll try to beef it up here because I tend to be a little low energy.
No, you're good.
But even we got interrupted to come back to the show because already we were talking about all kinds of different things. And let's jump in and talk about what's happening today in Washington, D.C. and just very soon.
Yeah, and maybe by the time we wrap up, we'll be listening to the first hearing on autism in D.C. in over a decade. Yeah. And I love Congressman Burton, who's retiring literally next week. And I am so grateful that he's always been such a strong, hero for autism. And his grandson and my son Jeff are the same age. Wow. And so I've witnessed what he's been able to do and bring people together to talk about autism. But it's incredibly depressing that we're still arguing, A, if there's an epidemic, B, still surveying numbers versus a full census, which, if you don't care enough to count, how do you care enough to deal with the ramifications? Well, let's stop there for a second, because I think a lot of people, I certainly didn't understand when the first number came out recently about 1 in 88, and I was devastated by the number, but I didn't really ask how did they get this number, and then when I found out how they got the number, I was further depressed, and I don't think that many people understand where that number came from. Well, a good friend of mine, Becky, she's a great person. She said they can tell us where a polluted patch of lettuce is with E. coli within 24 hours, but they can't tell us how many kids with autism live in the United States. Yeah. And so we're just going to continue myths and legends until we get a full census, and that's really one of the hopes that I see in an outcome from a hearing like this. Okay. The second thing, gosh, goes without saying, help for families. You know, it's in the last 5 years, you know, we've been running TACA 12 years, but in the last 5 years it's gotten so much harder for families to even get any type of small amount of support. It reminds me of Charlie Brown and, you know, going, you know, trick-or-treating, and everyone's like, I got a candy bar, I got a, you know, caramel, you know, popcorn corn, and I got a rook. That's how, I mean, with autism, there's so many families that are getting rocks, and they deserve so much more. And gosh, I don't even tell you this, is put more into these kids the more we get out. I want to turn taxpayers for the love of God, you know, and that's possible. And if we don't invest early, we'll be paying so much more later on, not just in dollars, but human cost.
Absolutely.
So let's pray that this isn't just hot air politics and actually actionables. I'd love to see that people actually care about autism and actually, you know, I look at the list, there was 3 people on the list I never heard of that are doing testimony, and I'm just praying that hopefully they actually care and weren't just tapped on the shoulder to appear.
Right.
So
we had reported earlier in the week that there was nobody on the list that has autism. That has been repaired. There's still controversy about, you know, if that was the person to pick. But, you know, at least there is someone, and I, you know, I'm always hesitant. It seems like whenever things happen in our community, I would love it if something happened and we could say, wow, that was the best possible outcome. That almost never happens. I can't think of a single example of that happening. And I'm always worried, because what happens is sometimes we fracture off as a community and we focus on different aspects of it. So I'm thrilled the hearing is happening. It maybe isn't happening the way I would have liked it to have happened, and it certainly wasn't announced as publicly as I would have liked. To me, this seems like national news on a regular basis, and I'm not hearing about it nationally. Hearing about a lot of other stuff nationally.
There's a lot going on in our country. And unless autism affects you personally, it just doesn't seem to ring a bell. I mean, people still come up with everything like, oh, is that Rain Man, or is that just someone you can take to Vegas and card count, you know, or are they just quirky, or what's their special gift? You know, so you just want to...
misconceptions.
So, and until your family is affected, and I always laugh, it's like until it goes one-to-one, there's not a whole lot of action that's taking place.
Yeah, but you know, I'm at that point, and tell me, you know, what you think about this, where...
Like I'm going to not?
Right, exactly. I forgot who I was talking to. And I love that about you. No, that's exactly right. That's how it should be. And I would prefer to talk to somebody who's going to tell me what they... But wherever I go now, it doesn't matter if I go to the grocery store, if I go to a place where I've never met people before, somehow autism comes up, and everybody that I meet says, oh, well, you know, my friend's daughter, her child, or, you know, so I hear that in my life, and I go, well, when are we all going to connect the dots and see that this does affect us all?
You know, I don't know what it is, and maybe it's the misconception that it's a neck-up condition because it's diagnosed by neurologists and they think our heads float in space and don't connect to a body. Maybe people still just look at it as completely a mental health issue, which, you know, it's a whole body condition.
Absolutely.
And when we can reconnect that kid can excel. So, well, I think the other misnomer is like it used to be a game over diagnosis.
Yes.
You know, and I always tell people it's game on.
Yeah.
You know, so I think there's a lot of things to cross over, and we need to have some of these doctors retire, thank them for their services, and bring in some new folks that actually want to get innovative and actually have hope and want to put some time into finding solutions, because they're so worth the investment every day.
Yeah, the education component of this journey, I thought at one point I understood how big it was, and every day I see how much bigger it is, because we have to re-educate all the teachers, we have to re-educate all the education staff, and that has to start from top down.
Right.
And that can be demoralizing, and then we have to re-educate the politicians, and we have to re-educate the doctors. It's a lot.
It's a lot, and there's a lot of people that whoever their first point of entry and how they learned about autism, if they're affected, they're still sticking to that, whatever they've heard. And, you know, I heard about my son Jeff that there were 6 times that we were told he should be put away, you know, and I look at that and I wonder what that combination of, you know, where either you accept or that lights a fire.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, it lit a bunch of cuss words and a fire to move forward and to fight. You don't give up on a 2.5-year-old ever.
Yeah.
You know, who allows that to happen? Yeah. So I marvel at how little people understand about autism, even though we are still learning so much, and there's so many subtypes. So I think if I could, I don't know if the government can solve this particular issue, but I'm praying that the Mind Institute or Autism Research Institute, they're talking about subtyping. And I think once we open that window, is just going to be so much more success for looking at effective treatments by group and real hope for families. Because, you know, I always joke, it should be like animals. You know, you have a monkey, you have a tiger, you have a bear. And then that way you go down the bear track or you go down the tiger track, and then you know what will work for your kid, or at least have better odds versus picking a poke.
Absolutely. I'm so with you on that. I think that, you know, all the different things we look at, I come back to that on a regular basis until we know, okay, it's subtype autism 32B. And what works for
tiger.
that. Or tiger. I like the tiger thing because the 32B, I'll get confused and call it 27A.
Is there a Tasmanian devil? Because that's what Jeff was.
I have a monkey. He literally would climb me like I was a tree and sit on my head. And I would know that that's when his yeast was messed up. Climb me like a tree. He hadn't done that in years, and this summer he climbed his father on one occasion, and I went, there
Hi,
it is.
Yeast, welcome back.
Yes, thank you so much. Smelled his head and went, oh my goodness, don't we smell like fresh baked bread? Interesting. Crazy. But you know what I love about you, one of the many things I love about you is that you have made this your mission in your life to be a point of contact for families, a place where they can go to without judgment to get hooked up to real, as you say, real help now. Which is a powerful, powerful thing, Lisa. And this was not what you planned to do with your life. I know it wasn't.
And I'm sure that they're my beloved husband, he's like the greatest guy. He loves and curses autism and TACA in the same. And I know because it's sometimes made him almost like he lost a wife in addition, you know, to a son in this process. And it's helped us to reconnect and rebound. And I mean, I've told you before, our daughter is even a BCBA and has other credentials. So our life is autism. So it's helped us rally. But, you know, it's really been a hard journey, but nothing's harder than, you know, I guess what motivates me and always brings me back to center is our kids have it 20 times worse, so I got to quit my whining, you know, just because the donor's not totally into what I'm saying, or, you know, a family's going to need help for the 10th time that week with all the resources we have. We just got to, you know, pick up our big girl britches and move forward, you know.
I hear you.
And pick up and find answers. It's worth, everything that we're doing is worth fighting for. These kids, you know. There was, you know, to share a story, so there was a thing I did at Disneyland. There was an award that I got, so we went over and we had a great family day, and, you know, it was kind of a neat thing, and not bragging and stuff, but at the party, the thank you party, someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, you know, I promised I would come over and thank you if I ever saw you again. And she proceeded to tell me her story, of course, through miles of tears, that she met me 7 years prior at a recovered kids seminar, and she didn't know it was possible. And we gave her that terminology, and she was able to introduce me to her child, and I couldn't pick them out of the 4 kids. You know, she's talking to me, and all that's going on, and I'm, of course, trying to I Spy the kid with autism, you know, in the corner of my eye. Couldn't. And it was just such a beautiful thing, but it was just so wild that you go to this thing and you have no expectation other than you're concentrating on your family, you're having a great time, and then, you know, autism's back. And like you said, you go to these grocery stores, you go to Barnes and Noble, you know, you go anywhere, and you know, it's Glenn and I always make the joke, you know, how many minutes in before we see a family, or we know somebody, you know, it's just how it happens.
It is. Whenever something goes wrong now, it's always interesting to me. If we're someplace and something goes wrong, like we were supposed to pick something up and it isn't there, and we have to wait for a few minutes, we have a joke about how long is it going to be before we discover that the reason why this happened was that there was somebody we needed to meet.
To.
It's a bizarre, like my husband will look around and go, oh, okay, there it is, there's the moment, Newell's coming. You know, that it's crazy. crazy kismet. But I'm sure that happens a lot to you, though, where somebody comes up and says, you have had an impact on my life and my child that you don't even know.
Yeah.
That's got to happen to you a lot.
It's pretty freaky. It is. And if I ever get used to it, please take off your shoe and hit me with it.
Okay, I promise I will do that.
Thank you. But it's the biggest blessing to know that, you know, you wrote a piffy story somewhere, or you did something, and somebody was able to glean an answer or a door that they could go find an answer. And that to me is just, there's nothing better, really. It's like addictive, you know, so our kids have autism, I have OCD, and it's about TACA. I can't help it.
Well, you know, I mean, I'm thrilled that you get that reinforcement for it, because we know you'll keep doing it.
Yeah, I get the positive reinforcement.
Absolutely.
And even the kids, like we wrote an article reviewing all our scholarships, and 12 kids had a minimum gain of over 32% in their ATEX, you know, and that was amazing. That's the Autism Treatment Evaluation Checklist, which I love. But there was one kid that his score worsened and went higher, and he started having grand mal seizures. So we've been following this kid, and I'm obsessed with him because I want to see how he's doing. And we're grateful that things are getting in a better place for that family. But, you know, it's like, yeah, great about those 12 kids, but that 13th kid, man, that one's mine.
There you go.
I will not give up until we have answers for all of the kids. You know, I just won't. So
you're an incredible person to have on our team. I'm so grateful. I know I've shared before on the show, and I shared when you were here the last time, and I get all misty because it's personal to me. You guys are personal to me, and you guys helped me at times when I didn't know, you know, the road had stopped. And you guys made the difference. You guys showed up for my family. I do. I get all ugly cry. I don't want to go there, you know.
And then we'll have to have wine. Emily, wine!
right. At this hour.
And it's only 10. Yeah, fabulous.
But
I don't have a drinking problem.
But, you know, I want to get back to basics a little bit about how this started, how families can access the information that you have. And Emily's reminding me we're going to take a break so that I can mop down. So we're going to come back.
So
with
if you cry, I cry, though. So that's how it works.
Well, you're in deep trouble then. I hope you put on waterproof makeup because I leak. We're going to come back and start at the beginning of the story and hear from Lisa about how this happened and how it really makes a difference for you and how you can take the ultimate advantage of what she's created for all of us. So stick with us. Back after this.
Autism used to affect 1 in every 10,000 children. Now it affects 1 in every 91 kids.
TACA is one of 5 organizations helping families living with autism today.
Our kids came back to life. There's a whole community out there, and now we're a part of it.
Oh, TACA has a place for me.
To find TACA, go to www.tacanow.org.
Please.
We are back with the fabulous Lisa Ackerman talking about TACA, Talk About Curing Autism, an amazing organization. So let's start at the beginning. It didn't exist, and you had a child.
And I think I share this story a bunch of times, but I went to a couple of meetings, and sadly, it was a bunch of people mourning, and I thought they should all be wearing black, and I was really trying to find answers. I didn't want to give up on Jeff at 2.5, and some of these folks were at the give up point. And so, you know, I think you laugh. And Moira told this story earlier this week when she was on, like a full, complete idiot, posted my home address, phone number, and just said, hey, I'm lost in autism land. Do you want to know what the hell these diets are and this medical stuff is? Me too. Come join us. And you know, opened the door that Saturday, and 10 faces were looking back at me, and I was just floored. But what was the most beautiful thing was birds of a feather don't need a study for that. They do flock together.
Yeah.
And something about maybe the humor or not the desperation. There was no desperation other than just humor and just, you know, I want to drive answers. Attracted other people that had a little humor and wanted to drive answers as well. Yeah. And we, at the end of the meeting, led with the list. You know, everyone had an actionable for the next meeting and was going to report back. And so we met again, and there were more people that came along, and we reported back. And now it's not about one person. You know, TACA is now an army. Yeah. And I look at, you know, I look back behind and around and all over. There are people that, you know, they live and breathe the mission, and they embody what the mission's about. And I'm thrilled, A, that they're there, but B, that they're so committed. And none of these people, you know, are being paid, you know, and if they are being paid as a staff member, they sure as heck can make more money working part-time at McDonald's, which, you know, don't eat their... Well, sorry.
We'll get into that
focus
later.
On some good healthy stuff, choices, people. But, you know, and it's just grown so much. So it's kind of, it needed to happen, or, you know, it would have been selection out. And it wouldn't have happened. It would have been part of something else.
Well, and you know, it's funny because hindsight is always 20/20. But you know, this idea of that first group, the morning group that you didn't want to be a part of, and there are still people,
and that's okay. You need that place. Sometimes you need to cry your brains out. And then pull yourself together. But I was past the you know, the crying my brains out piece. Yeah, I wanted to get moving.
But even now, when somebody gets a diagnosis, a lot of times they get told. I'm still hearing from people that they're told, put your child in an institution.
We get
You're not told anything different.
We get 5 calls a week with that statement at TACA. It's either email or call, but you know, we take hundreds of calls and emails every week, and it just. I want to literally rip their head off, and I'm not a violent person. It's how you could set such low expectations, or you have no crystal ball. You have no idea where this kid's going to be, and how dare you take away anything.
But there are people who are saying that to parents, and they were then. And you know, it's all easy for us to, for some of us now, to say, well, of course you were in a place of saying I want to be hopeful, but back then there was nobody saying that.
No.
It really was a new idea.
It was worse than the end of the Mayan calendar. I mean, really, which is in a couple weeks, I think. So let's have some wine, Emily.
But yeah, so you know, I mean, I think it's easy for always good. But it's always good to look back and think, you know, this really was revolutionary, what you were saying then. And fortunately for a lot of us, it's not a revolutionary idea now, but it still is for many people.
Yeah, and different parts of the world that you would think, you know, the one family recently, they were in Boston. You know, that's not too, that's a hub and a great place. And you know, maybe it's a doctor that just didn't understand. And we know physicians, when they go through their training, they get about 10 minutes on autism, and then they move along.
Right, it's the 10 minutes right after nutrition that they have. That then they feel like they can tell everybody what they should and should not eat.
Yeah, I always love when, you know, they say, hey, just put, you know, some fiber on your kid's trick cereal, and that will solve their constipation.
Yes, thank you so much.
Sorry.
No.
You know, stay with us.
But yeah, no, frustrating that they don't get more in either of those areas, and a lot of times those areas tend to go hand in hand.
Yeah, but the drug, the prescription pad, that training goes on for decades.
Absolutely.
That's the problem. Please, I'm not anti-drug. You know, I think the biggest issue is, to me, is they have their place and their purpose. Yeah. I'm not thrilled about that's the first step. Yeah. Unless it's what I always say, it's the 3 S's: seizure, sleep, or self-injurious behaviors. You really, you know, I look at, those are the 3 primaries as to why you pull out that prescription pad, because you've got to really stop-gap things.
There you go.
But if you've got to then peel back the layers of the onion. Yeah. You know? So I don't mean to get on an anti-drug thing. That's not it at all. But they have their place and their purpose, and I'm not a fan of seeing a kid on the spectrum that maybe there were some other things we could do on top of that, or routes we could take, or once we get things at a more stable place, then what are we doing to look at this 4-year-old on 3 drugs? You know, what are we doing as a next step? So I think with physicians, I know there's some great ones out there, and I'm not trying to beat up on all of them, but we have to spend the time. We have to know that there's hope, and we have to know that this is a very treatable issue. But we have to take the time.
And truly, for families that are out there, when their child is diagnosed, what I hear endlessly is, why isn't there a one-stop shop, a place where I can go when I can find out all of these different things? And my answer to that always is, there is, that it's TACA. That you guys have all of that in a very concise way on your website, which we haven't mentioned yet, but www.tacanow, so tacanow.org. And Emily will put it up too. Great resource that runs the gamut. Talk about some of the different things we have this week, but what are some of the things on the site that really excite you when you are talking to somebody first time?
Oh, we have a new
parent. It's like picking a child. Which child do you like the best?
What's nice is for what we find really interesting is 2 things. Is we have over 70,000 unique visitors to the website every month, and over half of our visitors are like, what is autism? And holy gosh forbid, does my kid have it? You know, and that's the click-throughs that we're getting for a lot of the visitors.
An important audience.
It is. And one of the things that I really like is something that Holly Bortfeld wrote, which is, what do the autism symptoms mean? And a lot of those symptoms can be modified through applied behavioral analysis, but a lot of them are medical in nature that are very treatable. So I love that what autism symptoms mean. And I also love our new parent, you know, click on it, and it's more scaled down. Sadly, it's 6 gigabytes of information on that server, and all of our video resides on YouTube, so that's not the video piece of it. So it is overwhelming, and unless you know what you're looking for, then what you want to do is plug into a free TACA mentor. And I know Holly and Moira discussed that earlier this week.
Yeah, but I think it bears talking about again, that is there for people, and that they can take advantage of it.
And I think rather than trying to dig through it, you can search by topic, like seizures or sleep issues, or full inclusion. What does that mean, and how does that work? There are different pieces that you can go in and search, but often parents with children on the spectrum, you're dealing with 48 things and you have to wear 48 hats. Sometimes it takes a person on the outside to say, hey, go look in these 2 areas. And that should help drive some additional answers for your kids. So parents should be open, really open their heart, kind of admit, maybe I don't know everything.
It's hard, right? It's hard. That is a hard piece of the puzzle.
It is. And sometimes, when you find what we've seen with families, once they're connected to community, they do so much better.
It's true.
And I think that's what TACA is really the #1 thing, is just connecting people to community. And when you get in isolation, good things don't always happen in isolation. Full Howard Hughes thing, your long nails, you're kind of going down the wrong path.
Oh, you're singing my song. I did that.
We got to get part of the community, and that's when people start learning. It's not just the traditional support group, is connecting, identifying people that have kids with issues similar to yours, and that have a hopeful strategy for driving positive change. And that's through mentoring and through our coffee talks and chapters and conferences. We really try to be that combination of what I call high tech and high touch. You need that combination, not a pervert way, but the high tech. Being able to find that information, pull that, get what you need, and be able to delve further into that data. But then that high touch, where you get a hug when you need a hug. You get connected to someone, like you say, that fate. You meet someone because you had to wait an extra 10 minutes for something. And that connection you can't get on the internet. No. God, they haven't created that tool yet.
No.
And some tools I don't want to see. Just saying.
Yes, that'll be the new app.
Yeah. There's an app for that. No,
I don't want it. But it truly, it's palpable in your organization. When the most recent conference that I was at, that you guys were all at, the ARI conference in Garden Grove, you see the TACA table, and there's the most fun happening at the TACA table always, right? It's moms and dads, and there's kids, and there's coloring and activity, and everybody's talking to everybody. It's a table that gets you have information all across the table, and people are always, it's always a place of congregation. And it's also where the most hugs happen at any conference that I've ever been at. And to see the connection, and somebody else walks up, and for me at this most recent one, and I've always seen this happen at other conferences too. Somebody walks up and they'll say their name, and somebody goes, "Oh!" because they're meeting for the first time, but they know each other. And that happened with Holly Riley and I. That I've read what Holly Riley has written for years, but never met her face to face. It was like meeting an old friend. And then to find out how many things in common our kids have, because you know how you're always, you meet somebody and you hear their story and you go, it's dissimilar to mine in this way, but in this way it's like mine. And then it's a deeper connection. And I didn't realize how much our kids had in common in terms of their interests and things and their age.
Oh, that's great.
So, but I always see that at your table, though. That, that's not a unique experience. That's, it's like a commercial for a phone company. If we ran a video of it in slow motion, it's all those people hugging and smiles and warmth and hope.
And we believe it or not, do training on that.
Really?
Yeah, and a lot of people comes naturally. They're just huggers and gushers and all that. But, we witnessed at conferences, it can be very intimidating. You go in and you learn stuff you were hoping died at school, but you have to reopen that part of your brain and start to learn chemistry and biology and things I was praying we'd never have to look at ever again.
Oh, please. I never want to look at another peptide slide of casein in my life.
Methylation sucks. Got it.
I don't have that kind of head for things. I'm like, okay, that is a peptide of casein. Thank you.
Move
Seen
on.
it, yes.
But, so we get parents, and that's why I'm hoping back to the subtype thing. If you've got a bear, ideally we'd like to mark all the seminars that bears should go to.
There you go.
Versus somebody may be sitting in something that just, they're going to occupy cycle time on something that's not going to be useful to them. So we actually, it was about 2001, we created the mentoring at conferences, and we geared up for it, we planned for it. And the whole goal was to get to know a person, take out the schedule, and tell them what sessions to go see.
Great.
And then in the exhibit hall, we would walk people through the exhibit hall and say, this vendor does this. This is why it's important. This vendor is cuckoo for coconuts. Walk by quickly. No eye contact. Just kidding. Just kind of fun to throw that in there. But,
that's great.
But, and just walk people around and then be able to connect them. And then, with the card booth there, these guys provide the services your kids are going to need. You need to get this information and digest it later. So we're able to connect people and then get them and then have them come back and go, do you have any questions from that last session? And they go, how much do I need to learn? Well, really, what you need to do is you need to get a doctor that knows this because it's going to take you too damn long to get up to speed. So let's talk about how you apply that. So, we're able to take it and practically walk them down that path. And
that's great.
It's mentoring, basically, at conferences, and then we do the plug-in later on mentoring one-to-one, within their community, which is important.
Very important and so useful. And of course, it bears repeating that all of this is free. That, if you're watching and going, oh, well, how much does that cost to have that? No, it's free.
Yeah, and
it's parents helping
parents. It's parents helping parents, and the motto we've had is families with autism, helping families with autism. That's been since day one. But for me, we do our best to fundraise to fulfill the mission and continue to offer the services and support we do for free. So there's even if there's a fee like a conference fee or some type of fee. Like the last conference we did, it was $20 to register, and you got 6 speakers and a workbook, breakfast and lunch. So we're not making bank on the conference reg, but we still will scholarship. 20 to 30% of the seats or efforts. So it doesn't matter where that family is, especially if they've got financial. Well, if you have a kid with autism, you have financial issues. This just kind of goes together.
Absolutely.
So we try to make that the lowest barrier to entry and help people get down the road of peace without having to open up the wallet.
It's incredible. I want to take a break and come back. This book is sitting here on the desk, and I want to talk about
right?
Yeah, because these are pretty amazing.
Oh, thank you.
And I just got my new volume too, because I do have a maturing child. Crazy. So I want to come back and talk about what these are and why people should be interested in these and how they can get a hold of them, and more about this amazing thing that you've started. This thing that this
Remember,
snowball.
it's an army now. It's an army now. It's not just Lisa anymore. It's
no, but that's incredible in and of itself. I mean, that you have a vision, and you have found the way to disseminate your vision to create an army. That's no small thing, madam. That's a wonderful, wonderful
I know
thing.
it's still kind of overwhelming, but it's really a beautiful thing just to see one-to-one families get the help. It's not necessarily one person. It's just watching that beautiful thing happen in front.
Absolutely. Well, we'll come back and we'll talk about this journey guide.
Right on.
So stick with us.
All right.
Hi, I'm Bryce Myler, and I'm the Contracts Director for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I've been here for about 5 years. CARD has several employees with many years of insurance experience, dealing with insurance, dealing with pre-authorizations, dealing with discovering whether there's coverage or not. So we have more experience than any ABA provider that I've ever come across. So for a prospective client, somebody that may be interested in, ABA therapy and what CARD has to offer, we have a special 800 number, and you call that number. They will talk to you about what we have to offer, how ABA works. He'll ask you for the front and back of your ID card, and then we check to see if you do or do not have coverage. If you have coverage for ABA therapy, we try to do whatever we can to set it up where we can bill for you and you don't have to fight with the insurance company every month to get your claims paid. For California residents, we recently did a series of insurance trainings all over the state, and you can click on the link below to watch pretty much the full presentation. It has a lot of information, how you can get your insurance company to comply with what they're supposed to do, understanding the networks, and many other valuable pieces of information.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Our very special guest today is Lisa Ackerman, founder of TACA, Talk About Curing Autism. Before the break, I promised that we were going to come back and talk about this lovely tome that's sitting here on the desk.
Yes.
Families with Autism Journey Guide.
Yeah.
This is an amazing thing that you guys do.
We did our first journey guide. It was basically a compilation of the recipes that didn't taste like cardboard or butt. And some resources and some basic, these are the steps you should do. And I think this is revision 1,247.
And this is volume 2.
Yeah. And this
for
is
maturing children, maturing child.
So we created one guide, and Lauren and I, my daughter and I, used to put them together in binders that were donated from Nestle, recycled binders.
Wow.
And we would put them together. And then Kirkman group was feeling totally sorry for me because I had paper cuts and stuff. So he was able to pay for our first printing, which was a blessing.
Wonderful.
And then we've been printing them ever since, which has really been fantastic. But this guide is something I am so proud of, and myself and an army of gals, specifically Holly Bortfeld, helped write a lot of the teen items. So volume 1's great, how to start an ABA program, what social skills and the entry level look like, early diet, early biomed, and things like that. And this one, social skills for upper skills. Puberty. Don't want that in the first guide. When you're looking at a 2.5-year-old,
no, I couldn't have handled that then, but I need it now.
And then transition, puberty, and sadly conservatorship, which may affect some children on the spectrum.
Absolutely.
But we try to cater the information based on where that family is in their journey, and that was a 2-year project. And like giving birth to twins, back to back, I feel.
I'm sure, because it's amazing. It's so thorough, and I love that things are available on the internet.
Yeah,
I
me too.
love that. I think it's an absolutely wonderful thing, but I also like having a book to hold and look through. I mean, I just flipped it open, right?
Yeah.
And here's the topic for this page: what to do during the summer months.
Run back and forth.
And here here, next page that I'm just flipping randomly here, we get this whole graph about dietary interventions to understand, and action guide of different things that you can do. Okay, like I said, flipping through randomly, what is gluten, casein, and soy, and listing the different kinds of things. This was so valuable to me on the website. What kinds of, because there were all kinds of things. I'm allergic to wheat. So I was really... Are
you celiac?
No, but I just have a wheat sensitivity.
Yeah, me too.
Really?
Yeah. I'm gluten-free, casein-free.
Well,
I know how to get you drunk, gluten and casein-free, no problem.
Well, was it you or
We're back to alcohol. I'm telling you, it's the hearing. I'm so nervous.
Well, when we were at, it wasn't you, it was somebody else from TACA that I was talking with, that I am not off the casein. I'm gluten-free, but not off the casein.
That's your crack, huh?
It is my crack. It is my crack. Yogurt, because I'm a vegetarian, I live on yogurt.
Okay, there's coconut yogurt, woman, and it tastes fantastic.
And I heard all this at ARI, and my talking to
we'll go to Whole Foods together. I go, this tastes good, this tastes good, this tastes good. So
well, and I'm more encouraged to do that. The last time you were here, since we're talking about diet, you had offered to do a cooking segment for us, and you did one the other day, and we're going to have that for you guys hopefully next week.
Can't wait.
I can't wait either. I didn't get to be there, but the ladies came back and told me, and you had mentioned while you were here, you said, oh, I've got a mac and cheese that's gluten-free, casein-free, soy-free, and I went, well, Lisa, I'm sure that it has something in it that my family can't have. You don't know what we, like, who was I talking to? And you were like, no, Shannon, you can have this.
You can eat it,
And even the other day, Emily came back and talked about how wonderful it was, and one of the ingredients, and I said, oh, I'm sure that's the ingredient. So I went back to Whole Foods, and I looked at that ingredient, and I was like, huh, we can have that. And that's what I ate yesterday.
Fettuccine Alfredo along the same lines, which is insane.
Well, I can only imagine, because that the type of soup that you were putting in it that my family can have, and my family can't have anything. That's what we had yesterday. Was that soup, and it was fabulous. Awesome. I can't wait to try the macaroni and cheese.
And we always, and the focal point of my cooking and what we've done with the recipes, which is again an army of moms helping, is we try to hide nutrition, real nutrition.
It's a good plan.
In each of the foods that we're eating. And we know kids with autism kind of generally are picky on steroids, are in ruts and have a hard time bringing in new things. And I'm all about hiding nutrition and good quality food. So even though you may have, with like my son, he had 42 food allergies when we started. We're down, I think it's 12 or 11 now, which is a blessing. That's easy. I can shop in the frickin' store for that. That's awesome. Versus you go through it. Yes. No.
No, I mean, that's, and my son does that now.
Oh, wow.
He will go through and look at the ingredients, and then we were literally in Whole Foods the other night, and he was looking at something in their hot bar and looking at the ingredients and running over to me and saying, what's this? What is in this? I don't know this ingredient. He was concerned about xanthan gum. He says, is there casein or gluten in xanthan gum? And I have to be honest that I was like, I don't think so. I need to look that up on TACA's website to see, does xanthan gum have gluten or casein? And I didn't know. So,
that's
such
usually a gluten replacement. The xanthan and the bar gum.
I thought it was okay.
It is okay, and it's a way to make a non-gluten product more glutinous. So
to make
think
it
of it like glue.
Right, the glue
it holds the stuff together.
Well, agar. That was I remember saying early days of autism, if I get to the point where I'm buying something called agar, somebody kill me. Somebody just shoot me because I'm done. Put a fork in me.
My
it's
whole thing
over.
was wheatgrass. Sorry if someone likes wheatgrass. I'm just like that. So homie ain't gonna play that game. We're just
but now,
not
can you
there.
have wheatgrass?
Yeah, you can have wheatgrass. But I was just something about it. Going to the juice stores and seeing.
That was the one.
Just really
the kind of person.
Interesting. People who drink the wheatgrass, and I'm sorry, your listeners, or watchers like wheatgrass, but I was like, that's where I'm not going.
I was that way about the agar. I eventually bought
raw, foods.
Oh yeah.
It's like awesome that you can eat that. However, that's food on a dare to me. I want food.
Well, I'm mostly a vegetarian, so the raw thing didn't scare me. But we all have our points where we go, that, come on now. I'm not doing that. That's a line. I'm not crossing that line. Somebody had written in when we were were talking about doctors, and they were saying same with teachers. We need them to think outside the box for our kiddos, teachers.
And I mean, I've run across in my life, you know, Jeff's 15, so we've been through a bevy of a truckload of teachers, and there's been some that have just been a gift from God. I mean,
I'm showing your son right now. So
he's the cutest thing in the entire world.
Has he gotten to meet Katy Perry yet?
No, damn it. And that has to change immediately.
It does have to change. I'm sure when you saw the Night of Too Many Stars and the whole Katy Perry thing, I thought of you.
Jody's a firework, so Jeff's a firework.
Exactly.
Come on, bring it.
And clearly she is someone who is supportive of our community, so that has to happen.
Well, we'll make it happen. I know that God works in mysterious ways. We'll put it out there. So, but back to the question, I can always come back, which is great.
You are good at that.
Really great teachers that we've been blessed with that have wanted to work with us, that ask questions, that really wanted to help. And what's crazy is they're Facebook friends. You know, Jeff's first grade teacher.
Oh, fun.
She's had 2 kids. She's retired, but we communicate. She lives in a different part of the world now, and I'm able to communicate, and she just is in love with Jeff. And great teachers. And then there's the other not so would rather, you know, gnaw off their left arm than help you with something.
Then learn something.
Right.
In charge of teaching, but don't want to learn something new.
This is my classroom, you know, and this is how I'm going to run it, and your kid needs to fit in, you know. And a great teacher, Barb, she's got a kid with autism, and she's featured in our Oakley video, and she's just brilliant. And she said something along the lines, you know, we want to make the square peg fit in the round hole. And it's the teachers that can actually look at it and go, this child needs a little bit different approach. And it's not the child's fault that they're not getting it. It's my way of teaching. And when you can see if there's a teacher that has that, like your first time you meet them, you'll know. Like when Harry met Sally, I knew he was a good egg. You know, same with these teachers. And I know that one of the things I've always done every year is I've gone in ahead of time and I've brought in a Starbucks small gift card, some chocolate, introduced myself, handed 2 books. How to Be a Great Parapro, which
I don't know this book.
Oh, it's a fabulous book. But Jeff, until recently, his aids are fading more.
Right.
But you know, he had an aid, a 1-to-1 aid. So we always wanted to show the teacher how to be a good parapro. This is why the aides are in the classroom, and this is what they're going to be doing with Jeff.
Right.
And you are the luckiest son of a gun in the whole world because they act as a classroom aide, so you're going to love it. You'll be able to pee.
Right.
You know, so that was that book. And then the other, Full Inclusion in either elementary, middle, or high school, which is a great series.
Well, you got to send us the links to these books.
I will.
So we'll make sure we'll put them on our Facebook site.
I mean, I buy them in the gross ton, so I hand them out like there's nobody's business.
That's great.
For me, if I go in and I'm just so excited to work with you. So for this person, you know, greasing the skids, here's how you do it. You bring in their clutch. You know, you can ask the reception or the office person, hey, what do they like? And they're going to know what that person likes. You bring that in.
Yeah.
You introduce yourself and you say, you're going to be my team member, and I'm so excited to have you aboard. And
it's great.
And Jeff, you're going to love this kid. He's going to be different. Oh my God, is he going to be different? But your life will be better, and you will teach better to many other kids than you've ever thought.
What a wonderful thing to say.
And then I bring in and I go, here's a list of Jeff's old teachers from previous years. Here's some phone numbers and emails, so if you need to call the BAT phone, you know, here's how you can connect. And
that's great.
You know, out of all the teachers, probably didn't work twice.
Well, but at least it,
not another 100%, you know, hitting ratio.
But at least it worked twice. It was worthwhile.
Well, it worked. It didn't work twice.
Oh, it didn't work twice. The rest of the time. That's good odds.
Boom.
Wow.
They looked at me like I had 4 heads. You know, like no, it's almost like no, your kid will come in my class and be just fine, and he will adjust to what my rules are. And you're just like, good luck with that.
Yeah.
You know,
let me know how that turns out for you.
You go. But, you know, and you just got to go in with hope and a heart, you know, and then be part of that solution. Invite them to your clinic meetings. Invite them. Offer to have clinic meetings at the school site, you know. Do things where, you know, make sure the aides know that, look, it's not just about this guy. Make sure you rove around and help other people. Endear yourself to this teacher. And I mean, the aides that have been with Jeff, one almost 12 years.
Wow.
And one 7 years. I feel like I've given birth to 4 children. Stretch marks to go around. They still keep in contact with some of the teachers.
That's awesome.
You know, they will encounter another kid with autism inevitably.
Yes, of course.
And so that is another thing to
and you're
share
right,
with
they
the teacher.
will be better.
They'll be better for it.
They
and
will.
let me help you understand different strategies. And there are kids on the spectrum that this works for too. And there's kids off the spectrum this works for too.
Thank you very much.
So, I mean, and
I mean, that's always the thing I'm touting is like, learn this for the kids with autism and then have all the kids reap the benefits of it. When they talk about, well, why would we want to train the lunch staff? Why would we want to train the bus driver? Because the bus driver is going to have to deal with challenging behavior, and it isn't always going to come in an autism package.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. So it's crazy.
Tools.
Yeah.
Giving people tools. Well, so
people
wonderful.
have to be receptive to learning. And it kills
and
me.
You think in the education system.
And I'm like, kind of an oxymoron, but it happens, you know, if you've been a teacher even a short period of time, you got your way.
Yes.
You know, and the one thing that kids for sure will show you is your way doesn't always work.
That's right. We know that as autism parents, don't we? We're winding down to the time when we have to let you go, but
it goes fast.
I know, and I told you we wouldn't have a problem filling the time.
Right?
But I want to talk a little bit about, we premiered on Monday this video that you guys sent us.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to talk, because I just felt like this was something so important. You guys have been doing a study, instrumental in doing a study.
Yeah.
And tell us about how this came about and what the study is about.
It's all about reaching children, right? And we have some of our most affected kids. You know, there's different studies that say 40% or so of kids on the spectrum don't speak. We don't know long term how long that stat will stick or what have you. I always call them pre-verbal, not nonverbal.
There you go.
It bugs me when they
I love that.
Nonverbal, like never going to happen, bite me.
Yeah.
Pre-verbal, going to happen.
There you go.
So we had a dear man, one of the first TACA 10 families, has a kid with 16 and never spoken before. Wow. They got him an iPad because they had means, and within 2 months of the iPad with the right tools, his first word was strawberry. And it came out,
chills.
I know, it came out full testosterone, like man voice, like man voice. And, you know, and since then he's been picking up more and more language, and they said to him a few months later after the strawberry, you know, we're going to Grandma's house, let's get our stuff and going. And he stopped, and Dad's like, hey, go get your shoes on, we're leaving. And he's like, I'm so excited. And for him to be able to finally start to articulate. So that generous man came to me and he said, Lisa, I only trust you. I know you don't do studies, but I obsess on science. Science is like my obsession and hobby, both, you know, all levels of science as it relates to autism. Cool. So that's where I geek and spend my free time. Full loser. Okay, so anyway, so long story short, he came to us and said, I only trust you. I really think this is a tool we need to use. And we got together in 2011, so it's been a long time. We've been working on this, and I feel like another thing that we've been giving birth to. And said, I'm going to give you some money, you need to get it matched. And I'm all, well done, I love matches. It's a challenge.
Yeah.
So we got it matched within 2 weeks.
Wow.
And walked across the hall where we have an ABA provider company that's been using the technology a long time. And they said, we've got so many low-income families and kids that have never had services. So we got a group, I don't know how to say it other than the way I'm going to say it, the most affected kids, but the most potential, because they hadn't received the support and the help up to that point.
Right.
And it was just a love match. I mean, I'm in love with these kids. And I remember they were telling me one kid was coming, he's going to participate in the study, and they're moving the room around, like taking stuff off the walls and pushing off to the side. I'm like, what are you guys doing? It's at the TACA office. And I'm like, this is my office. Could you quit dorking with my stuff? And they're like, no, he's going to destroy this room. And I looked at him like, well, how about we just see how this goes first before preparing for DEFCON 5?
Right.
You know, and he came in, he touched my face, I fell in love, sorry, Glenn, and we were able, he walked around and we talked about all the pictures of all the kids, and he wanted to know how old they are and what their names were. And he was so happy. In fact, every time he came back, he was just happier and happier. Oh. And his mom never had seen him do this before, but I would make him a snack. You know, he went in one time, and this kills me to this day. He went in the kitchen and made me a snack. Wow. And then washed the dishes, which he'd never done. I'm sorry to finger up on your face there.
For washing dishes from a male person of any persuasion.
It was that's
why, yes, exactly. Angel sing.
The most phenomenal thing, and just what we were able to capture, it wasn't just about doing science, which we've worked on, and study is still being processed. So I will scream from the mountaintops when it's published. It's imminent.
Good.
So, but what we accomplished was just, it moved a mountain. Every one of those kids receptively grew in skills. Expressively, every one of them started talking.
Yeah.
And the potential of minimizing behaviors was so extraordinary. Every one of these kids were having tantrums throughout their day because they couldn't share what they wanted to say. And how frustrating is that? I mean, I just was... Anyways, we got the study, we got the right tools, we put in the service time. So the parameters were pre-verbal, less than 10 words, had 10 hours of applied behavioral analysis already in home.
Okay.
So those were the parameters. Autism, of course.
Right.
And we looked for low income. That's what we wanted. We wanted a low income family. So when we didn't tell them up front, but they all got to keep the iPad at the end of the study, and I felt like Oprah. You get to keep the iPad. You know, it was just kind of awesome.
Oh, that's wonderful.
But it was just, it's changed my life, that study, and to be able
it's life-changing for all of us.
Yeah, and part of it was not just the science, but the video. We wanted this story to be shared, so we spent a bucket of money. You know, couldn't get anyone to donate it, but to videotape the pre, post, during.
Great.
And these kids, there's one little boy in particular, pre-verbal, extreme behaviors, never had applied behavioral analysis, but just got it the week before the study. So he came in, and this little boy is talking up a storm. He's fully included. He was one of our youngest participants, but I know there's a God, because there's kids like this that just are able to soar with the right help.
Amazing.
So what you see is, even though it's 20 minutes, a little over 20 minutes, that is something I'm extraordinarily proud of, and extraordinarily grateful for the people that donated. Two great donors, that service company, ASC, that donated so much time to do this study and work with the kids on weekends. Some of the families couldn't drive, so they would drive, go get them, and bring them to do the filming and to complete the study. And so I can't say enough.
And again, to go back, ABA with the iPad, in conjunction for kids who were not speaking, and tremendous progress. And I know a lot of you listening and watching, sometimes there's that negativity that we hear about ABA. Well, you know, only effective with, you know, really truly effective with a group of the population, and we're seeing that's just not the case. There's all kinds of studies that show everyone's going to have reach a higher potential, but to pair that with the iPad,
the right tool,
and for you to have taken a population that previously people have said, oh,
kind of overlooked, really overlooked,
and said, oh, it's just not going to be. You know, there have been lots of people who have said, well, maybe we should only give ABA to some of the kids because if we want to get out.
What is the Titanic? You know, we only have so many lifeboats, so you people, you're screwed. But these folks on the lifeboats, they're fine.
And where do you get off picking?
Oh.
That's my thing, is like who amongst you is going to take responsibility for that and face the parents?
Right.
Because you would not want to face me on that day, and I'm sure there are a lot of other parents out there.
You and I would go postal.
Exactly. And so I love what you've done and the progress that you see, and we're going to show that video in just a second.
And the main thing is we wanted to preview it here on Autism Live, so you guys get the first look. And next week we're putting up all the tools and how-tos, so parents will will be able to read everything, have everything, know everything we did behind it, and be able to be inspired. And we'll have a paraprofessional link to get more information so they can implement.
And that'll be on the site, and you'll let us know so we can let people know when it's there.
Yeah.
And also, and I have to say that in the video you say, I would love for Apple to see this video, because if you know you have this powerful of a tool that can change the world and give a voice, maybe it's something that you would like to be a little generous with.
Yeah, I mean, and Apple last year at this time had more money, cash on hand, than the U.S. government. And I don't mean to call someone out who's, built a product and a company. That's not my intention.
Right. Everybody has the right to make money. Free enterprise is a great thing.
Awesome.
But so is changing the world.
Exactly. And I think for me, if I had a dream, and I've got dreams all over the place, but for which camera's on? That's Apple. You have a social and moral obligation to change the world, and you can with kids with autism. You videotaped it when the iPad came out. You had people so excited to see that kids with autism could communicate. Just look at what you could do and change, and it wouldn't even be 0.00% of some point of your profits for a quarter. So I'm hoping they see this video and they know there's hope, and to do the right thing. Your mom's listening.
Well, and I just want to say that good publicity is, so powerful, and you can't put a dollar amount to it. So if you want to think of it in those terms, the amount of goodwill that could be garnered through doing this kind of a thing, and how many autism parents would.
But here's the bonus, and the thing that gets me thrilled is this technology will translate and help so many disabilities, cerebral palsy, seizures, all these different strokes. We're going to help. Apple has the potential of not just helping autism. We calculated 8 million people could be helped by this tool. 8 million people. So if they could help us fund more studies to get it covered by health insurance and get tools in the hands of people that need it for a much lower cost, we really could change the world. And there you are, Gandhi, who talked about how, be the change you want to be in this world. Apple could do that in a huge way. 8 million people. So 8 million people would buy iPods, iPads, Apple products because there was a difference.
Well, and yes, and I was just going to say, and we will continue to buy more things to go with them. Right. Because you'll have addicted us. Yes. And there will be. So it's all.
We need more.
We do need accoutrement. Of course we do. Don't be sorry for anything. But I know once we show the video, we're going to be saying goodbye to you as we go to the video, but I just want to tell you how much I respect and admire you, and how much inspiration you give to me personally as a mom, and you lift me up to say, because there are a lot of times on this journey that I sat there and said, I can't do this, nor can I do anything else. And you have been a constant reminder to me about all the things that one person can do. It's really kind of amazing. I don't ever hope to, even slightly fill your shoes.
We all have gifts.
We all have gifts. And you spur me into action, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing.
And look at you.
And look at me. I am no longer in isolation with the blinds pulled in my home where I was.
Sticking your thumb under the desk.
Seriously, saying,
I was there once.
saying I'm supposed to be able to handle this by myself, and guess what? I can't.
Yeah. And that's okay. But
it is.
Everybody has the ability to affect change.
That's right.
Whether it's within their family or their community.
But I really, truthfully, I learned that from two moms. I learned that from you and from Nancy Allspaw Jackson. And I looked at the two of you and went, oh, well, if they can do all that, then I better get some shoes on. Yeah. Because I'm a waste of food here if I'm, I had to get up. And the two of you really, and it was you first. So I want to thank you.
I think, but anyone who's listening or watching this recorded, they have that same power.
Exactly.
It's right in them, and everybody has the power to affect positive change.
Yes.
So you can either live in that place, which you have to. That's part of dealing with that process. And I'm not saying it's not right. It's just get yourself through that process and find your spark.
Yeah.
Find your spark. You find your spark. There's sparks everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's so much more fun to give.
It is.
It is so, it's addictive.
And it makes the journey a different thing entirely.
Yeah.
It's like going from black and white to color.
Right.
So it is addictive. But I thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. And that we're going to see your cooking next week, and that you'll come back and do more with us.
Yeah, sure will.
Because we adore you.
Feelings mutual. So thank you so much, sweetie.
And so as we leave, we want to go to this amazing video where you guys can see this study with the iPads and with the children and the progress, and add your voices to that prayer that Apple sees this and recognizes exactly, so that they can recognize the power that they have in their hands.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Take a look. This iPads and Autism from TACA.
You know, walking into this, we're not sure what to expect. You have a vision and a project in your mind and what you want from this project. And ideally, I hope to give families, or one family, or maybe two, or hopefully more, a way to find their voice and to communicate and to share their goals. And they're asking for basic things, and we want them to be able to have that voice to do that. And I have no idea what to expect, but I'm really hopeful to see what happens next.
Children who don't initially communicate with autism, sometimes they're told by physicians that, I'm sorry, your child will never communicate. That's not true.
Give me doll.
Go.
What?
What does she do when she's trying to communicate?
She pulls on you or screams and will try to talk, but it's really hard to understand. If you don't understand, then she hits.
Back in the day when my son first got started with technology, the technology we had was called Picture Exchange Communication System. We had to take a picture with a digital camera, cut the picture out, go laminate it, find some Velcro to put on the back, and pray that we wouldn't lose that picture when my son wanted to communicate about that item. And it was very time consuming. I probably spent thousands and thousands of dollars on laminating supplies and picture supplies. We also had other communication technology. One of it was over $10,000. It wasn't very intuitive, very clunky, and it had cartoon pictures.
Stephen, why? What do you want?
Y con este estudio, ¿cómo va a cambiar eso?
Espero que cambie todo. Ajá, espero que cambie todo.
You feel useless, for lack of a better word to use. He's trying to communicate, but he can't communicate. You want to know exactly how he feels, but you can't really tell what it is that he's feeling.
This project is very important to myself because it could possibly give my child an alternative way to communicate.
Llora, le ofrezco una cosa, no la quiere, le ofrezco otra, no la quiere. Y es una impotencia no poder comunicarme con mi hijo porque sí me duele y mucho.
Kyle is frustrated with not being able to express himself. It comes down to basically violence. The only way he gets his point across is he's going to hit you or bite himself.
I want him to be to his full potential
I don't want autism to define who he is. There is more to my son than that.
I just want to be able to talk to my little brother.
What would you hope to hear Joshua say?
I love you, Mommy.
Well, just hearing Mommy would be nice.
There are ways for children to communicate. It's tapping into the right way to teach them. It's us being better learners of what works for kids with autism and developing the right communication system for them.
There are so many myths when it comes to autism, and the one that I would love to see to go away would be the myth that these kids can't learn, that they are mentally retarded, and because the autism diagnosis that they get, overlooked oftentimes. I would love for people to learn that these children are very, very smart, and they're capable of making incredible gains with the right treatment and the right support. I would love for people to see that these kids are capable of so much and that they just need the right help.
They can be a part of society. They can function, they can have a job, they could drive, they can do so many things out there. I think people try to limit, oh, you have autism, you're only going to be able to fit in this box. But no, there's opportunities everywhere. They can go to college, they can do anything. So they can function and they will function.
Okay, so this is week 1 of the study. And so far, Ginny really hasn't played with it much, but she's already showing a little bit of improvement. When I show her the pictures, she can point to what she wants. And we're just really excited to see how she'll do.
First day he got it, we was super excited. The look on his face was priceless. Inside where they're teaching him how to learn it, the whole Prolo quote ago. I think things are going well in there. Give it another week or so. I think he'll pick it up real fast.
I think it's working with my son. He's responsive to the programs.
She's doing even better with the iPad. She's using it more and more. We added a lot more pictures of her stuff and the food she likes, so she seems to do better with more realistic pictures of the items, and yeah, she's just showing a lot more interest, so we're really excited.
Today Kyle did try the new setup with the fast food restaurants, and he was able to go to the icon, pick Wendy's. He then picked what he wanted.
Find cow. Go! Good job, dude!
So, I don't know, he just picks it up really fast. It's kind of exciting.
She seems to realize that she can use the iPad to communicate in a way she hadn't been able to before. Meaning that she actually gets excited about it, and she uses the iPad, and she might press something that says, expressive, and then she'll say, I like mommy. And then, even though she didn't mean to say that, once she hears it, she's like, wow, I really do like mommy. And I think it's really helping her realize that if she has a feeling inside of her, that now she can use the iPad to express it where she could not have done that before. So I think that's super beneficial for her.
I think he's doing phenomenal with the iPad. I'm very impressed. Cameron seems to be stimulated with this device. With other things in the past, there was no stimulation, whether it was PAX, whether it was Toby's. In terms of his communication, he's really been reaching out to the iPad as far as accessing what he wants. Obviously, that's an incredible sign, a positive, a real good sign in a positive direction. To see some progress within a short period of time, to me as his dad, is beyond exciting. I don't think there's any word in the dictionary that could express the way I feel, because we all know that without communication there's nothing.
The iPad helps me teach children with autism because it helps me quickly access learning apps that help the children acquire more information in a faster, more efficient way.
What's your name?
My name is Jenny.
Good job. You're right, your name is Jenny.
I'm also able to put more individualized, targeted skills into the iPad and do it within 30 seconds, where before it may take 2 weeks, a month to create the right materials to help teach children within our ABA program. Now I can do that within just a sitting with the child, take pictures, load it up, get it in there, and then start teaching them right away.
My mommy and daddy love me.
I know that, they do.
What do you want, Cameron?
I want a cracker.
Good boy, very good. You did that very well.
Our children with autism have a voice through the iPad. They're able to communicate, sometimes for the first time, through this device. So it can replace these very cumbersome, bulky, expensive, outdated items or devices that don't work as effectively as the iPad. Because iPad, let's just quite frankly, it's cool. It's neat, it draws people in. And our kids typically enjoy technology, so it draws them in too.
What do you want?
Willie.
Woody.
Good job, all right.
La diferencia para mí es mucha.
What's your name? Your name.
My name is Marcelino.
It's effective, it's efficient, it's helping to shape their articulation in a way that we really didn't even hypothesize that would improve, and it did tremendously, with enunciation on the right points in different parts of the words that they never had before.
I go to Savannah School.
I go to Savannah School.
Yeah, you're doing a good job with your sentences. Look at me. You're doing a good job.
Yes, me.
Do you want some pizza?
Yeah.
For me personally, I've seen Zachary use more words in terms of asking more questions. Mom, who is that? What is your name? Things like that, for me.
I think he's speaking more, using more words and more language.
Now I can get him to actually talk on the phone, because our family's in Texas. So when they do call and we talk to them over the phone, I can actually get Zachary to come to the phone and actually say, hello, grandma, whatever the case may be. And they can definitely see a difference, yeah.
Zachary, what game did you play today at snack time?
Tag.
Was that fun?
Yes.
Yeah? Who'd you play with?
Play Mia.
You play with Mia?
Yeah, to play Danny.
Cool. And Danny? Do you remember anybody else's name?
Yes.
Who else?
Dylan.
Dylan?
Yes.
Good job, buddy. Ooh, is it hot or cold?
Cold.
It's a little cold in the wind, huh?
Why is it going to win?
Cold in the wind. I like your hair.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What's your name? Awesome, nice job. My name is Mike. It's nice to meet you, bud. When is your birthday? Very nice job. Very good.
Le da a los niños más comunicación, más aprendizaje y más habilidades para socializarse en la vida. What do you hear?
I don't have that.
I hear.
Helicopter.
Can you say it?
I hear helicopter.
That's right. I hear a helicopter.
No.
I want to play the memory game.
Good.
Okay, play the game.
Whoa, that was fast. What are you watching?
Jimmy.
Oh, you're watching TV? Show me. What is it called?
Robot.
Robots, okay.
What do you want?
I want to play Fruit Ninja.
Good, okay, go ahead. Good asking.
Kyle, you ready?
Ready.
To go where?
Go.
Where are we going to?
See, bye.
No, chili fries, we're going to.
Sammy.
All right, you got it. Bye, Kyle.
So yes, it has been working.
I feel blessed that although she has severe autism, she definitely seems more understanding receptively.
Well, the study, I think, is so important because A, we bring out these tools to the people who are out there and give them hope that there is something out there that can help them tremendously. Rather than just teaching these children social skills, let's teach them that they can go beyond and they can still learn.
Use all your words, Ava. Good job asking. Hey, what's your name?
Emma.
Good, Ava. Good job asking. Okay, I'm gonna turn the TV on.
This is a way to teach their child. It is one of many ways, but it is an exciting, innovative, efficient way of teaching children with autism how to communicate. It's affordable. It's so many things.
She's been calling me mommy a lot, and that's really, really nice. She's never called me mommy before, so it's just really exciting to see. I never really expected her to speak this much and stuff, so I'm really, really proud of her.
They're out of the mud faster and to the light and down the path so much faster than where we were, and it makes my heart soar because those kids have a fighting chance.
He knows how to say I love you. How did you feel the first time you heard that? Oh, I just wanted to cry. It was good. It was a good feeling. Definitely.
Never give up. Never give up. Keep trying. Keep moving forward. Try everything. Exhaust all options, and you'll prevail.
Ideally, what I would like Apple to do is watch this video, look at all these families, and know that there's thousands and thousands of more families out there just like these that need help. And that tool, the tool that they so graciously made, and it's an amazing tool, I'd love for them to open their hearts and help these families. It's the barrier of being able to communicate or say I love you to their mom or dad. And we don't want there to be a barrier. We would like to see more kids have this tool. And we're hoping if Apple sees this video, they'll step up and make a difference.
Each participant was evaluated using a series of standardized assessments, including the parent and teacher forms of the Vineland Adaptive Behavior Scales, the Receptive One-Word Vocabulary Test, and Expressive One-Word Vocabulary Test. Frequency and length of spontaneous utterances were recorded in 5-minute periods, or in other words, the words were recorded in 5-minute periods. During the 3 weeks of baseline, Stephen learned a total of 3 new language tasks. Once treatment with the iPad was implemented, Stephen's learning rate increased by up to 12 new language tasks per week, with a total of 130 new language tasks over the whole treatment period. He also was able to talk without using the iPad, his articulation improved, and he's even programming the iPad on his own. During the 4 weeks of baseline, Kyle didn't learn any new language tasks. Once treatment with the iPad was implemented, his learning rate increased immediately with an acquisition of 147 new language tasks. This graph illustrates how many words the participants were able to string together in a sentence. Pre-treatment, some of the participants were unable to talk. After treatment, some of the participants were able to string up to 7 words together in a sentence. This graph illustrates the amount of spontaneous words recorded in 5 minutes. After treatment, each participant increased the number of words by as many as 59. The average participant's spontaneous words increased by 35.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Really an important video, an important study, and we can't wait until, we'll let you know as soon as they publish that study. But I have to say, right now, we are joined, I'm very excited about this, by BCBA, Board Certified Behavior Analyst Angela Persicke, and I've asked her specifically to come in and talk with us about some other research. A lot of you have been writing in, now that you've got insurance funding to some degree, are writing in and saying, okay, my case supervisor or my BCBA or the insurance company or somebody has said, here are the number of hours that are appropriate for my child. And how do I know that this is the right number? And a lot of times we're hearing numbers that are 10, 15, 20, 25, and parents saying, how can this be? We've heard you talk on the show about 30 to 40 hours. So we wanted to talk about some research and put some information and some power in your hands to be able to go back and further the conversation. So Angela, thank you for coming in and talking with us about that. And what do we need to know? Hook us up.
Okay, well, first of all, the 30 to 40 hours, that's what we consider high intensity. Okay. And all of the studies that have looked at intensity of ABA have looked at some high versus low, and low would be like under 20 hours. Okay. High, you usually consider above 25 hours, high intensity. And so overwhelmingly, the evidence has shown that the higher the intensity, the better the outcomes of the children. Okay. So it's not necessarily that there's this special number, you know, that it's exactly 30, it's exactly 40. But the studies that have been conducted have shown that the children just overall, the relationship between the number of hours and how well the children do, the higher the hours, the better the children do.
Right, but we don't want to make it sound like, oh, you know, we can pick a crazy number like 80 hours a week, but the cap on it seems to be 40. That's a reasonable amount, and they're still successful at great progress at 40. Exactly. The kids do get tired. We're not talking about 60. No. We're talking about that 30 to 40. Okay, so talk about some of the specific studies that if I'm a parent and somebody is saying with my 3-year-old child, well, we think that 20 hours is appropriate, what are some studies that I can point to and quote and say, well, here's a study that shows that 30 to 40 is effective. Where's your study? Okay,
so Reed and colleagues, REED, 2007, they specifically looked at, they used a descriptive analysis to look at low versus high, and they looked at under 20, so you know, 10 or less to 20 hours, and then over 20. Okay. And so that's like 20 to 40 hours. Okay. And they show that the higher intensity, of course, the children performed better. Okay. But in outcome studies in general, you see the better outcomes with 30 to 40 hours. Okay. And if you go to autismresearchgroup.org and our resources page, there is a document on there that lists all the outcome studies and lists all the studies on intensity.
Okay. And I understand we have a graphic, too, that we can put up and talk just a little bit about here. So tell us what this is.
Okay. So this is a graph showing the mean weekly hours that were from these different studies, these different publications over time of professionally directed early intensive behavioral therapy. So on the bottom, you can see the mean weekly hours, and then on the side, on the y-axis, you can see the change scores. And the dark circles, the filled-in circles, are change in IQ scores. And that's the top set of data points with the line. And let's just talk about those for a second. Okay. For outcome, we like to look at the change in IQ from start to finish. Okay. So how many IQ points did the child improve on? So if you look at that graph, you can see the children that were receiving fewer hours of therapy, under 25 hours, their IQ scores did not change as much. Okay, Emily, can you show us the graph again? Because I want to go back and look at that. So the black dot is the child who had 10 hours. This is as a group. So this each dot refers to a specific outcome study. So a group of kids who got 10 hours,
they essentially did not have a change, or their IQ went down.
Exactly. You can see, and that first dot right there at 10 hours a week, the black dot that you can see on the bottom, those children, their IQ as a group decreased. And this was from the LOVA study.
Okay.
This was from the original LOVA study. So the low intensity group, 10 hours a week, their IQ actually decreased.
Okay.
From start to finish.
And keep in mind, folks, that your insurance company is paying for ABA therapy because it's been proven to be effective. And they're going to be looking to see that your child is meeting goals because they want your child to be done with ABA at some point. They don't want to pay for it for the rest of their lives, so it needs to be effective, which means we need to get the progress that we need in as quick amount of time as possible.
Exactly.
So they're going to be arguing with the ABA provider about, are you being effective? Well, how can you be effective if you're giving the wrong prescription? Emily, can we look at the graphic again?
Okay, so if you bring up the graph again,
there we are.
And you can see that there's the diagonal line on the top is increasing. That shows the relationship between number of hours and better outcomes. And you can see it once you get above 25 hours, actually more like 30 hours, those are when you see the best outcomes.
Right.
So change scores above 10 IQ points.
An amazing difference. So very visual there. Now talk to me about the ones that aren't filled in.
Okay, the ones that aren't filled in, this is the Vinland Adaptive Behavior Composite.
Okay.
So this is adaptive skills, communication, daily living skills, social skills, motor skills. These were assessed in a fewer number of studies. That's why there are fewer open dots on this graph.
Okay.
But you can see too that there's a relationship when you get to above 30 hours, even actually closer to 35 hours, that's when you see the most amount of change in adaptive skills.
Okay, so very clear why we're talking about that 30 to 40, that's the period where you're going to get the most IQ change, which is going to be lifelong beneficial, and then those adaptive skills. I mean, we're talking about the toilet training and the being able to move through your life and whether or not you need support.
Exactly.
So I know that none of us likes to talk about the fact that this comes down to money, but it does.
It does.
And so when a provider is saying, that you qualify for 20 hours, that's significantly less expensive than 35 hours a week because it's ongoing and we know it's going to be for more than a year. It's going to be 2 to 4 to 5 years of this amount of therapy. But when we average how much it could cost for support for a child to have all those adaptive skills help them over a life, it is staggering, the cost. So worthwhile for the insurance company to do this and do this right. Okay, so you're in a position of, you need to argue this with the person, and I want to make everybody know too that when somebody comes back with that first number, that isn't the be-all end-all.
No.
There is a discussion that can happen. So again, I always feel like I want to go in armed with things. So tell us again, we go to the website.
Go to autismresearchgroup.org, and on there under the resources tab you will find documents, and there's a document for outcomes of early intensive behavior therapy for children with autism. That is the document name, and you click on that and there's a couple pages listed with the outcome studies, and there's actually one that's a couple studies under the heading intensity. So those are the ones that you specifically want to take, so the intensity of treatment.
Right.
And those ones are listed on there. There's the LOVA study, there's the Reed et al. That I just talked about, also Grand Pichet et al. That we did here, showing across almost 300 children that the greater the intensity, again, greater number of mastered operants or mastered skills over time. So
it's showing that it's working. The child's learning and growing. So super duper important. And I'm not a lawyer, nor am I an insurance expert, but we all understand that the reason why insurance is paying for it is because it's supposed to be effective. And I do know that sometimes when you go in and you say to somebody, you sit with a confidence and say, thank you so much, we got your recommendation of this many hours. We have some questions about it. You know, why? Why do you feel that that's what's effective? Use those words, effective. Tell us why that's the number that you have arrived at. Do you have any studies that you can show us that show that that's going to be effective with my child? I happen to have these 4 studies that show that what's appropriate and effective is 30 to 40 hours. I'm wondering what you have that you can show me is effective at 22 hours. And then listen to the crickets chirp, and stand there and be confident. Don't be obnoxious, right? That's very hard for me to not be obnoxious when I know I'm right. But try not to be obnoxious. Try to be really, really nice about things. But I tell you that a lot of times people see the confidence and see, okay, this is going to be the pain in the butt parent. I love being the pain in the butt parent, because guess what happens? They will give the pain in the butt parent the thing that they know that they were supposed to give everyone to shut the pain in the butt parent up. And that translates to our kids.
Exactly. And a lot of times they will recommend fewer hours because the kid is in school, and it's, if the child is going to school 15 hours a week, 20 hours a week, and then has an additional, 20 to 25 hours of behavioral therapy on top of that, if the child is in a good school, an ABA-based or an autism program, and is receiving a lot of one-on-one in their school, then that's fine. If they're only able to give 25 hours on top of the 15 school hours, right? And we don't want our child to be exhausted and have so much going on. We usually say about 40 hours a week total.
Okay. But if a child is not in school yet, but they're engaged in other things, like maybe there's a play group that they're engaged in that's not ABA, should those hours be counted towards, so that if the provider is saying, okay, well, we're talking about 30 hours for this child, and they go to this play group and they're there for 5 hours a week, so therefore we're going to say 25. That's certainly something we can ask some questions about, right?
Yes, ask some questions about that. Again, the research shows that intensive one-to-one behavior therapy, 30 to 40 hours of one-to-one behavior therapy.
Great thing. So you can go and say, can you show me where on any study that giving 20 hours of ABA and 5 hours of this play group was effective? And keep using that language, excuse me, because that's where you're hitting them where they live.
And there are other outcome studies who have specifically looked at eclectic treatments. So a mixture, not just the one-to-one ABA, but a mixture of treatments, and those are not as effective, even with the same number of hours a week.
Is that included on that stuff that's on ARG? Okay, because that's a really important point too. And I can tell you that I once sat in a room, what I was arguing was that ABA was effective, right? I wasn't arguing how many hours, but I was sitting there and they were saying, no, we want your child to go to this very eclectic school program. And I said, well, here are my studies, where are yours? And suddenly my child had an ABA program in his home. You don't have to be obnoxious about it, but
be prepared.
Be prepared, and you're on the right side of it. Know that. Have that confidence in the way you hold yourself. They recognize it. They know, okay, I'm not going to mess with this parent. Because there are lawsuits that will happen if they, you have legal recourse. Absolutely wonderful. Anything else that you want to tell us?
No, I think that's it. But they can feel free to email us, info@autismresearchgroup.org, or contact you, and you'll get it to us, and ask us any questions.
And if there's a specific study that they want to get hooked up to, sometimes that's overwhelming for a parent about finding how, like, you can get just that, I don't even know what that opening paragraph of the abstract is, but you can't get the rest of it. You guys are really helpful at being able to hook people up so that they understand where to go to. Sometimes you can even ask somebody who wrote the study, and they'll be happy to send it to you. So if you have questions about that, they can talk to you as well. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Angela. We so appreciate this information. It really is life-changing for a lot of people.
It is.
So thank you so much. We're going to take a break, and we're going to be back to finish out the show after this message. Stick with us.
Skills is a revolutionary web-based program that incorporates comprehensive assessment, curriculum design, progress tracking, and treatment evaluation for children with autism all in one place. Developed by the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. Our approach is based on over 40 years of research on the principles of learning and their application to improving the lives of children with autism. How does Skills work? Created with speed and simplicity in mind, Skills was modeled on an easy 3-step process. Step 1. Start assessment. Step 1 begins with our intelligent assessment system, which consists of a series of questions. This assessment is essential to identifying your child's level of skills compared to their typical peers across all areas of development. This includes assessing social, motor, language, adaptive, play, cognition, executive functions, and academic skills. Every skill has an assigned age which indicates when the skill emerges during typical development. This means that each child is automatically presented only with lessons that are relevant to his or her age. Step 2. Choosing activities. It's now easier than ever to build an individualized treatment plan. In Step 2, you are presented with an individualized pool of activities that are directly linked to your student's assessment results. Each activity represents a specific skill that has been indicated by the assessment as needing to be taught. Activities are categorized by curriculum and then by lesson. There are 3 main types of skills: building blocks, fundamental, and expansion skills. Fundamental skills are necessary for successful everyday functioning. Building blocks are prerequisites to a fundamental skill. Expansion skills are non-essential skills, but may provide further enrichment in certain areas. After reviewing the activities available to you, you can quickly add your chosen activities to the treatment plan by simply checking the box and clicking the button. Step 3. Start treatment. Once you have selected and added the activities you want, you are ready to begin teaching. Skills provides you with all the tools necessary to design and manage an effective curriculum plan, such as printable activity guides that are customizable by the teacher, supplemental teaching aids including printable data sheets, teaching guides, visual aids, worksheets, and tracking forms, detailed IEP goals and benchmarks for each activity, brief and visually appealing video tutorials, a variety of treatment progress and clinical timeline charts, and lots more. And since Skills is completely web-based, everything you need is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in one easy-to-access location. Skills users even benefit from unlimited access to a support community, where they can ask questions and share ideas with a skills expert. Skills is always with you.
Welcome back to Autism Live. You know, all this week we have been featuring a toy of the day, and I wanted to, as we get at the end of the show, I wanted to talk a little bit about read to me or read with me books, because that's really, and I brought in 3 books from our bookshelf. This is one of my favorite books of all time, Go Dog Go. And excuse me. This is a great book for a pre-reader. This is great for teaching prepositions. This is great for beginning to teach interactive play and for making books reinforcing. And, you know, whenever we read with our kids, we want to keep their focus and keep their attention. And so there are even books now. In fact, the Usborne Company puts a little duck on each page to get our kids to interact. But I love to use this as an example to parents parents, whenever on the spectrum, not on the spectrum, about how to read to your kids, because every single page of this, there's something you can do with your child, and it can be different every time. But you know, when we read dog, and I always point to the word when we start, and then I might start with something really simple like. I'll say something to a small child like, "Where's the doggy?" And I might even take the finger and point to it. Eventually I can say, you know, "Where's the blue hat?" Or "What color hat is the dog wearing?" I mean, you can work on this book for years and years to come. But there are all kinds of adjectives to describe the dogs, but then we get into the prepositions about the dog is up, the dog is down, the blue dog is in, something to point to each and every dog. Something exciting. This book teaches building anticipation. Even as a child, I loved this book. So a fabulous, fabulous book, because you know, you get to the end and they have a dog party. This is our favorite page of the book. It's war-torn because we would always point to all the doggies, and then we would get to the why is he still awake? Emily's going to start to show you some of the ways you can be in contact with us. But of course, we get to the dog party with this one. There are so many things to point to and so exciting for the children. A couple of the other books that I brought with a standard, and you see that's chroma keying out are green. But Goodnight Moon, full of things to point to. This is a board book that has been ripped to shreds. Any child who comes into our house, we read this with them. And you say, where are the clocks? Where are the socks? All of those things. Here's another great, you can get this as a board book or otherwise. We're going on a bear hunt, and add the physicalities of when you get to the parts with, you know, oh no, a snowstorm, a whirling, swirling snowstorm, and move with the child, have them sit on their lap. But I love this one because on each page I would say, where's the baby? And the child has to find the baby. Where's the dog? Find the dog, right? And they can make the noises. And again, it builds towards anticipation, because eventually, of course, they do find the bear, and they go back through each thing, and you make it fun, make it exciting. These are just 3 of the books from my library that were 3 of the favorites, but of course the list is endless. I love that if you give a pig a pancake, if you give a mouse a cookie, if you give a moose a muffin, oh, love, love, love those books. But read with our children. That's a really important thing to do. These make great gifts for holidays. I want to remind all of you, programming note, that we're not here tomorrow, but we will be back Monday morning, bright and early, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Time. And we hope that in the interim, you'll stay in touch with us in all the different ways Emily was just showing us. And I always want to remind you to please give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.